Hey there, I am so excited that you're here to hang out with me today because today we are doing a simulcast both on YouTube and on our podcast, Redefining Balance for Working Christian Moms. Now, we on the podcast are finishing up a series all about how to help you be a better mom. And if you are watching on YouTube and you have not yet subscribed to the podcast, I'm going to link to it down below so that you can do that and catch the entire series over there. And if you're listening on the podcast, I hope that you jump over to YouTube. You can find the link in the description for this podcast episode so that you can watch other videos and get more tips and inspiration to create balance in your life as a working Christian mom. Now, today we are talking all about how to bond with older kids. Now, my kids are soon to be 11 and 15, which blows my mind that we are already there. And, as they've grown up, my time that I spend with them and the way that I bond with them is very different than when they were little. And this conversation has come up asking questions about what to do when your kids just close the door to their bedroom and they don't want to come hang out with you anymore. And it is a change for us to go through as moms. And so I thought it would be important for us to talk about it. I can kind of share with you some tips that has worked well for me and kind of walk you through some guidelines of things I have learned from other experts, because certainly I am not a parenting expert by any stretch of the imagination, but giving you some tips on how you can navigate these waters of change as your kids get older and how you can make the best of your time spent with them so that you can be making memories, because ultimately that's what it's about. I mean, the fact that my older son, my very first baby, is going to be turning 15. He's going to be getting his driver's permit. He will be a legal adult in 3 short years. Now, when I think about where we were 3 years ago, it feels like it was yesterday. And I know when he turns 18, I'm going to feel the exact same way about him being 15. So it's important that we make memories while we can, but also give ourselves a little bit of grace and not get too stressed out about it. And we're going to talk about that here a little bit later on. Because so much of what we're going to be talking about, although I'm going to give you some practical tips, a lot of it is mindset based. It's all things that really we need to be thinking about and how we can really capture the thoughts that are going through our mind and how we can make the most of those most positive outcome. Now, when our kids were little, right, they wanted us to play all the time. Maybe if you had girls, then it was playing with dolls or other toys. My kids are boys, and so it was always Legos or make-believe or cars or whatever it was. But it always involved getting on the floor and playing with them. And there were times I really, really enjoyed that. And then there were other times where I really didn't want to, but they asked. And so of course I would do it. And when we'd go out to places, it was places like Chuck E. Cheese or the park or, places that, quite frankly, if I didn't have kids, I would not be going there. It's not things that interest me. And while I cherish those memories with my kids, I love that they're getting older and we can actually do things we both enjoy. And this is where bonding truly comes into play. And going back to the mindset part, this is what makes it kind of awesome when your kids start to get a little bit older. And I think it's important that we get excited about that change and get excited about the different things that we can do with them, because it's really easy to just grieve that they're no longer littles. It's easy to grieve that they're growing up way too fast and get stuck in that mindset. But when we get stuck in that mindset, we are robbing ourselves of the beauty and glory that is the age that they are right now, today, and how we can really maximize on it. I don't know about you, but if I could go back in time, I would probably do things a little bit differently than I did when they were little. And I don't want to feel that same way about now, like the period of time that they are now and the age that they are now. I'm sure I will. But, I like to think that if I'm just really intentional about it right now and I really am just trying to do my very best, that I can give myself enough grace to, forgive myself for maybe some of the things that I wish I would have done, right? So let's get to some of these practical things that you can do to be bonding with your older kids. Now, if you're listening on the podcast, before we get to the practical tips that I have for you on things that you can be doing to bond with your older kids, I want to first let you know about some exciting things we have coming up in the Life Balance membership. Now, if you are new to Your Life Rocks and you've not heard me talk before about Life Balance membership, it is a monthly subscription that gives you courses, tools, planning, resources, all kinds of great things to help you take the work that we're talking about on the podcast and here on the YouTube channel a little bit deeper. Now, the backbone of Life Balance membership is the Life Balance system. You know, I always say balance is possible with 3 different things. Number 1 is God as that first filter on everything in your life. Number 2 is community. And number 3 are systems. And inside Life Balance membership, we teach you all of the systems, mostly the Life Balance system, which is a 90-day system that you can follow to help you create more balance and achieve goals in all 8 areas of life that we teach. And we're going to be kicking off a new 90-day session starting in April. Now, when you join in March, it's a great opportunity for you to jump in and get started with courses like Clear the Chaos, which is a 7-day audio course that helps you redefine balance and get immediate results to the chaos around you in just 7 days. It's also a great time to get started in the Setting Goals in God's Will Bible study that we have, as well as setting up a strong morning routine, which we have courses for and a tool inside the Your Life Rocks app. And then you'll be ready for the workshops that we do towards the end of March to help you set goals and get started strong on the second 90-day sprint of 2020. You can learn more by clicking the link below or by going to lifebalancemembership.com. All right, now let's get into these practical tips that we have and helping you find activities that will help you bond with your older kids. Now, the first thing I think it's important to do is to spend some time just journaling and writing. And this is why we talk about morning routines, because this is when you have time to do these kind of exercises, is when you're having that strong morning routine. Now, you might also find time during your lunch hour or at night after the kids go to bed or whenever it works for you, but I highly encourage that you have margin somewhere in your week, somewhere in your day where you can be a little bit more intentional, because when you choose to live a life of intention, it's going to require you to set aside some time and plan ahead so that you can be intentional. You don't just magically become intentional. You have to be intentional about your time so you can be intentional about your actions. So when you have that time to be intentional, bring out your journal and just start writing all of the things that your kids are interested in. What things do they like to do for hobbies? What things do they like to research or look into or to learn about or to do? Now, once you have that pretty exhaustive list, you can look at it and say, what of these things even slightly interest me? Now, obviously, that list is not going to be 100% alignment with the things that you enjoy to do, because let's face it, they're not you, but hopefully you've influenced them at some point in their life, so some of those things you might enjoy doing as well. Now, some of the things, so for example, my older son, he really enjoys history. I enjoy history. So that's one of the things that we have in common that we can go and do. We also have a lot of the same interest in the foods that we like, which gives us a great opportunity to try out a new sushi restaurant whenever we see one. Now, I'm going to cut away from the practical here and go to the mindset just for a minute, because sometimes as a working mom, and I know this is so true for me, when people ask me, so what do you like to do for fun? Crickets. What do I like to do for fun? I raise my kids and I work. I take care of the house. I don't know. I don't know what I like to do for fun. So this might be an exercise for you to really just give yourself some permission to think about yourself. Because this, my friends, is one of the beautiful, glorious things about your kids getting older. They don't need you as much as they used to. So you actually have some free time for you to hang out with your friends, to find out new hobbies and do something for yourself that you like to enjoy versus going to the park every single Saturday. So there's that. There is a silver lining to this cloud of our kids no longer being littles. And the more we focus on that, the more great it's going to be. So if you struggle to think about the things that you like, this is an opportunity for you to give yourself some grace, give yourself some freedom to maybe try some things that used to be fun for you that you don't know if you like anymore. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. You don't know until you try. So as you are looking at the list of the things that they enjoy, you're looking at the things of the list that you enjoy, what of those things intersect, and then start to think about all of the new and exciting things that you can do to bring those two things together. Now, here's one tip for you, and this is something that kind of relates to what I do in my career, but experiences are what bind people together. Experiences are what create memories. When you think about this, when you go through an experience that creates an emotional high or an emotional low, that emotion roller coaster is what ties deep into your memory bank. That's what creates experiences that form who we are as people and the way that we view the world. And one of the things that I think is really, really important is that we are constantly doing that for ourselves as a positive stress point. One, it's really good for our brains. And two, whenever we're doing it with other people, it's really good for a relationship connection. And I don't know about you, but I want to have a strong relationship connection with my kids as they're getting older and becoming adults, because I kind of want them to come back home for Christmas and holidays and want to spend time with me because I want to spend time with them. So think about the experiences that you can do where those lists kind of come together to be able to create some of those experiences. So I mentioned my son likes history. I like history. So what things can we do that might be new for both of us? So it's going to create that emotional experience, right? Of, I don't know what's going on, and this could be a really fun thing, or it might not be a very fun thing. But I thought it would be really cool for us to find some reenactments, some history reenactments, and go to those places, or to travel to places that have a rich history background, like Washington, D.C., or places like that as family vacations, because it's something we're both interested in. So as we're planning the trip, we can talk about the things that we want to go see, the things that are important to us, and it will allow us to bond on a different level. Now, oftentimes we are talking about balance for the season that you're in. Now, sometimes our seasons are shorter, sometimes our seasons are longer, and sometimes our seasons might have to do with what's going on at work. A lot of times our seasons have to do with the age of our kids. So what balance might look like for a mom of a newborn is very, very different than what balance is going to look like for a mom of a 4-year-old or of a 10-year-old, or as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, teenagers, right? When your kids are teens and preteens, your balance is going to be very different than it was when they were toddlers. And so I think it's important that every time we have these new seasons, whether it has to do with parenting or career or whatever it might be, that we kind of re-ask ourselves, what is balance to me right now? How am I defining what balance looks like in the current season that I'm in? And when your kids are a little older, this is where I said that positive mindset is key, because your balance is going to be very different. This is going to allow you time to go on more date nights without having to try to find a babysitter. My husband and I, if we want to go on a date night, we can just go. We don't have to find a babysitter because my older son can babysit the younger one, and all is good. All is right with the world, right? It's amazing. If I want to go hang out with my friends, I can, and I don't have to worry about play dates or all of the other things, right? You can really start to live your life in a completely different way, because let's face it, a lot of the time, your kids are going to be with their friends. And I think it's important that when you have those boundaries around when it's time to be with your friends and when it's time to be time with the family, as long as you are always having that time with the family, when they want to be with their friends, let that be your time to do the things that you want to do. Pursue those passions that maybe you don't even know what they are yet, but think about what they are. Pray for God to lay those ideas on your heart and onto your mind so you can figure out what they are and start to do them for yourself. Now, I do have 3 final tips for you in helping you bond with your older kids, and I'm going to get to those in a minute, but first I want to recap the things that we talked about. So number 1, make a list of the things that your kids enjoy doing. Number 2, make a list of the things that you enjoy doing, or if you can't make a list of the things you enjoy doing, just look at their list and say, what does not seem super boring on this list? What on this list would I maybe enjoy doing or kind of enjoy doing, and start there. Explore new things that you might enjoy. Give yourself permission to try new things. And with that, actually, let me just add in a little thing here. When we're talking about giving yourself permission to try new things, if you try something once and you don't like it, what do you tell your kids when they try like a vegetable for the first time and they don't like it? You're gonna keep reintroducing it, right? Or try different ways of cooking it to see if they maybe like it this way versus that way. Have you ever eaten a raw Brussels sprout? Not very tasty. Have you ever roasted Brussels sprouts with bacon? Amazing, right? So really think about those different things that you can try. For example, my kids love to play video games. I am not very good at it. I don't like it. There's not a lot of video games that I enjoy. However, every once in a while when I see a game that's like think, oh, that looks kind of fun. I'll give it a try. And I have one video game that I like to play. And so if the kids are like, let's play video games, Mom, I will say, can we play my video game? And most of the time they say yes. Sometimes they're like, I don't want to play that. And then I'll say, well, I don't want to play the other games. So if you want to play video games with me, we're going to play this game. And most of the time they will play that game with me because they just want to play video games and we want to spend time together. So why not? But find different things that you can do. Don't give up too easily because you never know what variation of a new opportunity might just be your thing. And of course, keep an eye on your mindset as you're going through all of these things. Keep it positive, keep it focused on what this new life looks like for you, of having some more freedom to really explore a different definition of balance for you. Okay, final 3 tips that I have for you in helping you bond with your older kids. Number 1, definitely easier said than done, but to listen more than you talk. Oftentimes as parents, especially as moms, we want to give a lot of advice, but sometimes we need to quiet our mouths, open our ears, and spend more time listening to what our kids are actually saying and what they need from us and what's going on in their life. Asking questions is a great way to learn more because unless we get all of the details, we tend to make up a lot of the details in our head and it is not always pretty. So the more information we can get from our kiddos, the better off it is for all of us. And one thing that I am really working on right now as a mom, something that was recently brought up on a podcast episode a couple weeks ago from a parenting expert. Again, I am not a parenting expert, but something that she said has really stuck with me, and that is to ask questions with curiosity and not judgment. So when they're talking, be curious and want to know more versus having that brain of ours always ticking and judging and starting to close those loops. Leave the loops open and let your kids close them for us. Tip number 2, I say this all the time. Remember, we are raising adults and not children. So eventually these children that they are now will be adults, and that is what we need to be focused on and use that lens. I mean, we were their age once too, and we transitioned into adulthood. And so we've gone before them, therefore we know more than them. And we want to always be thinking about, who do we want this person to be when they're an adult? How do we want them to function in society? How do we want them to handle some of the bad things that might happen in life? Because guess what? Life is life. On this side of heaven, bad things will happen. And so the more we can build resilient kids, helping them to have good critical thinking, judgment skills, self-control, all of those great things are really helpful. So whenever you're dealing with how to bond with your kids, or you're dealing with things that have come up with disciplining your kids, always remember that you are raising an adult. And number 3, probably my favorite, is to keep some of the traditions from when your kids were little alive, because they are family traditions. It's not just things that you need to do for your kids when they're little, but they're things that really help those bonds for your family for long term. Now, 2 of the things that I will always continue to do with my boys is tucking them in at night, except for on the nights that they stay up later than I do. I like to go to bed early, and sometimes they don't, especially if it's the weekend. So then they tuck me in, which is different, but still having that time together to just show affection, to pray for one another. It's really, really important, and that's a tradition I want them to continue. So I never am just like, all right, go to bed. We always make sure we have that bedtime together. And the other thing is Saturday morning pancakes. Yes, my kids can make their own pancakes. They know how. But it's one of those things that as a mom, I just like to do for them. It makes me feel good, it makes them feel good, and it's a good connection, good memory, good tradition that we have. It doesn't happen every Saturday morning, but as often as I can, I like to make them pancakes because I'm a mom. And that's what I love to do with them. And I think above all else, that's what we need to remember, is giving ourselves grace, that it truly is about that bond and that connection from us to our kids. I hope that you found these tips helpful for you, and I would love to see in the comments any additional advice that you have, because we're all in this together. We're all learning together, and I would love to hear from you. So until the next video, keep building a life that rocks. Bye.